My name's Mark and you're listening to Headstraight. Hello and welcome back. All right, let's talk boundaries. The things everyone says that you need, but no one really explains how to do it properly. Now, you've probably heard phrases like protect your peace or set boundaries, but what does it actually mean in real life? Now, maybe you've tried this before, but then you've had someone guilt trip you or act like you're out of line. Or maybe the whole idea of setting boundaries feels awkward or impossible because you hate conflict or worry that you'll lose people. Now, here's the truth. Boundaries aren't about being mean or selfish. They're about being clear. They're how you protect your time, energy, and your mental health. Boundaries tell people, this is what I need to feel okay. And in doing so, they teach others how to treat you. Now, if you're tired of feeling overextended, frustrated, or like you're constantly giving more than you're getting, then this episode's for you. We're going to break down why boundaries matter, why they're so hard to set, and how to start creating ones that stick. We're also going to take a look at some scenarios, deal with emotional fallout, and even touch on how to set boundaries with yourself. So, let's get into it. Now, here's the thing. Boundaries sound simple in theory, but in practice, they can feel like you're climbing a mountain. A lot of that comes down to emotions. Fear of upsetting someone, guilt about saying no, or worry that you'll ruin the relationship. Those feelings show up before you've even tried to set the boundary, making it easier to avoid the conversation altogether. Now, remember back to episode 2? Why can't I control my feelings? We talked about how your emotional brain just stamps on the gas. Fear, guilt, and worry, whilst your logical brain struggles to hit the brakes. That's exactly what's happening here. But just like managing big emotions, setting boundaries gets easier with practice. The first few times do feel messy, awkward, and terrifying, but every time you do it, you're teaching your brain that it's okay to stand up for yourself. The other reason boundaries feel hard is guilt. Somewhere along the way, you've learnt that saying no makes you selfish. So instead of risking a fight or letting someone down, you keep quiet, even when it leaves you drained. But the truth is, setting boundaries might feel uncomfortable in the moment, but it saves you from the bigger problems later. So, I want you to start paying attention to the parts of your life that feel heavy. Where are you feeling frustrated, overextended, or resentful? Those feelings are usually red flags, telling you that a boundary is missing. Maybe you've got a friend who expects you to drop everything for them but never shows up when you need help. Or a family member who keeps making comments about your life choices that makes you feel small. Or maybe it's your own habits, like constantly saying yes to new commitments, even when you're already stretched really thin. So think about one relationship or situation where you've felt frustrated recently. Is it because you've been saying yes when you actually wanted to say no? Or because someone keeps crossing a line you haven't communicated yet? Take a moment to notice when those feelings show up. They're your clues as to where the boundary might be needed. If this sounds familiar, I want you to think back to episode 1. Why do I feel like I'm not good enough? That voice in your head that says other people's needs are more important than mine loves it when you ignore your boundaries. But here's the thing. Setting boundaries is one of the strongest ways to shut that voice up. It's how you remind yourself that your needs matter too. Now, boundaries aren't about controlling others. They're about protecting yourself. Instead of saying, you can't do this, boundaries say, here's what I need, and here's what will happen if that doesn't work. It's less about changing other people and more about showing them what's okay for you. Now, think about one situation where you've been letting something slide. It could be a friend leaning too hard on you, a family member making comments, or even your own habit of overcommitting. What's one small boundary that you could set to make that situation feel more manageable? Here's an example. Let's say you've got a friend who keeps unloading all of their problems on you. Instead of blowing up or ghosting them, you could say, do you know what? I care about you, but I don't have the emotional bandwidth for this right now. Maybe we can find someone else that you can talk to. Now this ties back to episode 3. How do I build a better support network? A good network isn't just about finding the right people. It's about teaching them how to respect you. True friends will adapt to your boundaries because they value you. And if they don't, well, that's a sign that they might not be the supportive people you thought they were. Now let's talk about what setting boundaries actually looks like. It's easy to imagine boundaries as these dramatic confrontations where you're laying down the law, but most of the time, they're way more low-key. They're about simple, clear communication. For example, let's say you have a friend who's been leaning on you a little too heavily. You care about them, but every conversation seems to revolve around their problems, leaving you drained. Now, you don't have to cut them off completely. Instead, you might say something like, look, I really care about you, but I've been feeling overwhelmed lately. I don't think I can be the best person to talk about this right now. Maybe we can figure out another way to get you the support that you need. Or maybe it's a family member who keeps pushing your buttons and giving you advice that you didn't ask for. It doesn't have to turn into an argument. You could calmly say, I know you're trying to help, but those comments make me feel judged. I'd really appreciate it if we could focus on something else when we talk. And what about school? Let's say a group project isn't feeling very group-like because you're doing all the work while everyone else slacks off. Instead of letting it slide and feeling resentful, you could say, do you know what? I've been doing a lot of this work on my own and it's getting overwhelming. Can we try and figure out a way to split the work better so that it's fair for everyone? Take a moment to think about how you'd say this in your own words. If you had to set a boundary with a friend, family member, or a classmate today, what would it sound like? Practicing it in your head can make it easier when the time comes to say it out loud. Now, you're going to feel it. Guilt is almost guaranteed when you start setting boundaries, but it doesn't mean that you've done something wrong. So, when was the last time that you felt guilty for saying no or putting yourself first? What happened? Now ask yourself, was the guilt trying to protect an old habit, or was it actually a sign that you were doing something important for yourself? Now think back to the episode, I feel guilty for asking for attention. We talked about how guilt is often a sign that you're breaking old patterns, not hurting anyone. It's the same with boundaries. Every time you feel that pang of guilt, remind yourself that protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's necessary. So before we wrap up, what's one boundary that you could set today? Think about something small but meaningful. Maybe it's saying no to one thing that you don't want to do, or having an honest conversation with someone who's been crossing a line. Start there. And that's it. Not just for this episode, but for the first season. Now, if you've made it this far, take a second to really clock that. You've spent a whole season being honest with yourself about your emotions, your choices, your relationships, and how you show up in the world. Now, that's not easy work. Most people avoid it, but you didn't. This episode on boundaries wraps up everything that we've been building towards. Knowing yourself, owning your impact, protecting your peace, and figuring out how to do life in a way that actually works for you, not just for everyone else. So here's your challenge. Don't let this be where it ends. Pick one thing from this season, just one, and apply it. Whether it's learning to pause before reacting, being honest about what you need, or saying no without guilt. That's where change starts. So, thanks for walking this path with me through season 1. And Headstraight will be back. But until then, keep showing up for yourself, one decision at a time. You've already started the work, so keep going.